What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, there's a couple things I want to say before I start this video. One, shout out to the brother Tiki TV for doing a video talking about this breaking news story. Please subscribe to his platform, right? Also, shout out to the brother LB of the Sports and Political Channel of LB. Please subscribe to his platform as well. So, the Secret Service is once again being called into question after an armed man unknowingly approached former President Barack Obama's SUV in a Hollywood alleyway. The incident took place outside the popular restaurant Mother Wolf, where the former president was seated in the back of his vehicle. The armed man, a security guard working in a nearby bar mitzvah, approached the SUV without realizing who was inside and came within inches of the former president before retreating. Now, according to TMZ, who the first one I think to break this story, the breach in Obama's security happened over the weekend, raising questions about the agency's protection of the former president. The guard later revealed that no one was stationed at the rear of the SUV, leaving it vulnerable. Before noticing the presence of Secret Service agents nearby, the man was working at a bar mitzvah and was unaware that he had come within inches of former President Barack Obama. The guard, whose name has not been released, went downstairs to investigate after being told that federal agents were outside. Once he stepped into the alley, he saw two men who turned out to be Secret Service agents in a black SUV with Department of Homeland Security plates. Curious, he snapped a quick photo, assuming a high-profile guest was inside. As he approached the vehicle, he was shocked to see that Obama was sitting in the back seat, focused on his laptop. Now, because he realized who was in the back of his car, he realized how severe, this situation was, and he quickly retreated because he knew he had an armed gun. He knew in protocol, they had a weapon on him, and he realized, hey, I shouldn't be near this person anyway, let alone with this on me, and they may perceive me as a threat, and they may open fire and blow me the hell away. He greeted the agents, who seemed startled by his presence, and returned upstairs to his post at the bar mitzvah. About 30 minutes later, his boss requested that he hand over his credentials and concealed carry license to the Secret Service. After verifying the guard's information, the agents let the situation pass without further consequence. This is the thing. Initially, the Secret Service, when I read, they denied that the situation happened. They talked about how the photo that TMZ snapped is of Obama leaving the alleyway. But it was confirmed that, yes, it was a time when the former president was unattended. And once again, the Secret Service is under fire for another significant error. It was just back in July 13th, when Secret Service security and parameters were breached by Thomas Matthew. Thomas Matthew Crooks, I think it was, 20-year-old out of Butler, Pennsylvania, or at least near the vicinity of Butler, Pennsylvania, who somehow was able to get on top of that building, the rooftop, get into the prone position, and was able to get off shots, one of which apparently nicked former President Trump's ear. Had Trump not turned his head to look at the Jumbotron, which was showing figures in which he was talking about immigration figures, I guess it was. Usually that part of the process of his speech, his rallies came later. but he did it earlier, and that probably saved his life because he had Trump lined up for a Kennedy-esque shot. Let's put it like that. Um, then of course it was just what, a week and a half ago, maybe, where the incident at Mar-a-Lago occurred, where a guy who was fortunately spotted by, I believe, was Secret Service, live streaming what would have been, if successful, one of the most uh, heartbreaking, tumultuous moments in history had he succeeded, but it was thwarted. We know what I'm talking about. Okay. Look, we live in an increasingly violent world. We live in a very volatile, powder keg sort of environment where if you don't support someone's candidate, they want to destroy you. I mean, we see it here on social media. Okay, so this powder keg, which the violence that we see in our society first sort of started manifesting in the 60s, but it's really accelerated. And, focusing on Barack Obama, this is the latest in a long line of security breaches. Okay. Back in November of 2009, a Washington couple named Tariq and I think Tariq and Michael Salachi crashed Obama's first state dinner. The Secret Service later acknowledged that officers never checked whether they were on the guest list. They didn't check their criteria, check their credentials, I should say. A photo emerged showing that they shook hands with the president. Sullivan, the director, said that he is, quote, deeply concerned and embarrassed by the breach. The Salachis parlayed their fame into an undistinguished career in reality TV. 2 years later, November 2011, a man with a semi-automatic rifle parks in front of the White House and fires at the building, with Sasha Obama inside and Malia Obama on her way home. A Secret Service supervisor mistaking the shots for car backfire orders officers to stand down. The service does not figure out that shots actually hit the building for 4 days, and only then because a housekeeper noticed broken glass. The president and first lady are infuriated. April 2012, 8 Secret Service agents doing advanced work for a presidential trip to a summit in Colombia lose their jobs after allegations, you may recall this, allegations that some took prostitutes from a strip club back to their hotel rooms. A Justice Department investigation finds that 2 Drug Enforcement Administration agents arranged one encounter between a prostitute and a Secret Service officer. Obama later says, quote, when we travel, we have to observe the highest standards. The very next year, May of 2013, a Secret Service supervisor leaves a bullet in a woman's room at the Hay Adams Hotel, which overlooks the White House, and allegedly tries to force his way into the room to retrieve it. An investigation finds that the supervisor and her colleague sent sexually suggestive emails to a woman subordinate. The supervisor loses his job and the colleague is reassigned. A Secret Service spokesman says, periodically, we have isolated incidents of misconduct, just like every organization does. The very next year, 3 Secret Service agents responsible for protecting Obama in Amsterdam are placed on leave after a night of drinking in violation of Secret Service rules. One of the agents is passed out drunk in a hallway. The newspaper reports that the 3 are part of what is known as the counter-assault team, a last line of defense responsible for fighting off assailants if the president or his motorcade comes under attack. Later that year, September 16th, and perhaps the most chilling of the Secret Service lapses, a security contractor with a gun and an assault record gets on an elevator with the president during a trip to Atlanta. The Post, citing people familiar with the incident, reports that the contractor uses his cell phone to take video of President Obama and did not stop when the Secret Service agents told him to. The Secret Service only learns that the man has a gun when he is fired on the spot and turns it over. Obama was not told at the time that the man had a gun. Just 3 days later, An Iraq war veteran with a knife jumps the White House fence, dashes through the North Portico doors, and makes it deep into the building, into the East Room before he is tackled, and only then by an off-duty Secret Service agent. The Secret Service first says only that the man was apprehended after getting in the door. A congressman told the Post that the security alarm was disabled because staff nearby found it too noisy. Also, I remember I put in Tickets chat, there was a situation where I can't remember exactly where he was, but it was a situation where Barack Obama was visiting, I want to say it was a bowling alley. And I think the owner of that bowling alley, if I remember something correctly, bear hugged the president. It's against protocol for people to come within close proximity to the president without permission, let alone physical contact, bear hug. And this was the dangers that Barack Obama faced. And now, this situation. I remember correctly, Barack Obama faced more threats to his life than the 42 men that came before him combined. All 42 prior presidents received collectively less threats to them than the 44 presidents. You may say, well, there's 42. Then that doesn't mean Barack Obama's the 43rd. Well, remember, Grover Cleveland served 2 non-consecutive terms. So that made him the 22nd and 24th president, just as Donald Trump was trying to be the 45th and 47th president. So Grover Cleveland messed the count all up. But this is the thing, man. I agree with Ticket TV that vehicle, first of all, the windows should have been tinted. Okay? They should have been tinted. Especially in this environment, in our country today, there's no unless the only time, look, especially when you're in an uncontrolled situation, uncontrolled environment like that or setting, the windows should have been tinted. And if you're not that close to the White House, close to the vehicle with the president, the windows should have been tinted, man. That's just unbelievable, man. And look, y'all may not like some of these people, but just yesterday, wasn't it a Kamala Harris office in Arizona was shot out or something like that by some idiot? There's some people out here that are really whack, man. Now, former presidents, just like sitting presidents, are given lifetime protection as far as Secret Service is concerned. And I think that started, I believe, with Lyndon Johnson. After the Kennedy assassination, that started with Lyndon Johnson. I'm not sure if Eisenhower had Secret Service agents assigned to him or Truman, probably. But I definitely know it started with Johnson. I can't remember whether Truman and Eisenhower did. I think they did. But it was on a smaller scale. But after the tumultuous 60s, after the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, after the assassinations of Bobby Kennedy, after the assassination of Dr. King and Malcolm X and Medgar Evers, even though some of these people aren't politicians, but just notable people, and you know, I'm gonna throw in Fred Hampton, but you know, that's not official establishment people, but you know what I mean. It became more and more important for presidents to be protected at all times. Now, there was one president who gave up his Secret Service protection, and that was former President Nixon. He gave up his Secret Service protection, I think it was back in 1985. He believed that, Nixon was sort of fatalistic. Nixon had a mentality like, well, if something's going to happen to me, it's going to happen. So he gave up his Secret Service protection in 1985. I think he also felt like he didn't think the taxpayers should be burdened with paying the cost of this protection. I think he just wound up just always having like a couple of police officers and security officers with him. But for the most part, everybody else had Secret Service protection. And usually it's very good, but there's been increasing lapses like this. And one of these days, I don't want this to be true, but one of these days, man, something might happen, man. Try not to go into a long, drawn out video, but we've had so many close calls, man, over the years. So many. Look, if you pay attention to my community section, there was 2 attempts on President Ford's life in 1975 that came within 17 days of each other. You may recall Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981. He survived. There's some evidence to suggest that John Hinckley, who shot Reagan, actually had intended to go after Carter months earlier before he left office. Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who the government says eliminated Kennedy, may have been targeting former Vice President at the time, Nixon, when he was in Dallas in November of 1963, the very day before Kennedy was taken out. There were an attempt that was thwarted in 1993 on then former President George H.W. Bush's life when he was, I want to say, in central Mexico. Supposedly Saddam Hussein was linked to this. There have been attempts on Bush's life, his son, that was thwarted. Remember, there was an idiot that tried to, I think he threw like a grenade or something on stage with Bush, but it didn't go off, thankfully. And there have been other things, the other plots that have been thwarted. So look, the Secret Service has a lot that they have to do. They have intel, so they are human. But the last few months, some of this stuff has been ridiculous. I'm gonna say this too before I end this video. I gotta be honest. I don't like saying this stuff, man, but some of this got to do with DEI hiring, man. I'm sorry. I don't like using that term because I know what's in that term. And a lot of times people weaponize that to mean certain crap, but some of that got truth to it, bro. This diversity, equality, inclusion crap that some agencies do, including the Secret Service. I'm sorry. You're supposed to hire the people who are best qualified, not trying to fill quotas. You know what I'm saying? When you had that situation that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, you had Secret Service agents whose guns were not, what was it? Some of them were dropping their weaponry. They looked out of sorts. I mean, it's one thing to be trained to be in those positions, trained when you're in these emergency situations. But when it actually happens, a lot of the agents were panicking. You know what I mean? Or at least they look panic-stricken, I should say. So some of this comes with, you know what I'm saying? Some of this comes with, I hate to use that term, but yeah, they do have some DEI hires in Secret Service. I'm sorry, man. It's more threatening to have someone that looks like me or Ticket as security than say somebody that looks like, I'm just being honest, Jada Pinkett. I mean, am I lying? That's not everything. We're not bulletproof, but someone look like me, LB, a Ticket, that a security, just the presence is going to, or some big country fed corn, big country fed, country corn fed crew cut, white boy from Nebraska versus somebody look like Britney Spears that's working security and Secret Service. I mean, that right there is a deterrent at times. I mean, some of the optics mean something, man. 80% of it is the optics. So I'm just saying, man. But anyway, glad the former president's okay. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna say this too before I end this video. We don't need any of that partisan extremist crap in this video. This ain't the video for that. Okay, this ain't politics. This is real life. All right. So this ain't the format for that. And you could also make an argument, man. Is it subconscious on some level with some of these situations? Like, well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go there. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.